conference. And it's all, so future is anything but a linear projection of the present. If there is anything we know in this room, is that what is absolutely, what you can be certain about is discontinuity. So preparing for that discontinuity, I believe, is where I would leave, we try to leave Pakistan in 2047. And what kind of discontinuities can come about? There's so many of them, some of them have been mentioned. But I think the contours of the future would be defined by 4 key things that are happening right now. I think the future would be defined by nanotechnology. I think this whole journey of building atom up to material, and a material which has zero waste, and a material which has, which miniaturizes everything, that I think is going to be a fantastic future. And I'm talking about 2047, I'm not going farther down. These are the things that are actually going to happen because you've already begun to see 3D printing. There's no rocket science there. I think the future is also going to be defined by biotechnology. I think at some point in time, as I always say, jokingly perhaps, that death would be looked upon as an illness. Because we've decoded the genome, we know what this is all about. We're already creating organs in our petri dishes. If we're already creating organs in the petri dishes, how long would it take for us to erect these organs again? We're already taking undifferentiated cells and we are programming them to become the liver and the heart and this and that. We haven't gotten into the complexity of brain, but all of these things are happening. The little tapeworm is already living 7 times its natural age in the lab. So why would your children not live for 200 or 300 years? It's beyond me. The rate at which technology commercializes, the rate at which technology has commercialized, I ponder, I ask myself, why would it not happen? It won't happen to me, it probably wouldn't happen to you or some of you. But why won't it happen to your grandchildren? I mean, things that you're doing now, you weren't 10, 20 years ago, you weren't expressing monoclonal antibodies in crops. Now you are. In mice, ovary lines, now you are. So if you're expressing human proteins, if you're expressing human organs in labs and various systems, what is going to stop you? And are you prepared for that? I mean, right now, when people are already kind of in the Western world, they have designer babies, you can program to have a certain color of eyes and so on and so forth. So this entire, the pictures that you see on television and movies, the pictures about these robots taking over the world, that's not going to happen. Sorry, I mean, I had to break your heart. It's you who's going to take over the world. Once you're programmed, how are you going to tell? What part of you is a robot? What part of you is science that has programmed you? And what part of you is left that is the original human? So that cyborg, the world that would have cyborgs, not robots. Who would be human and who would be half human? Who would be a programmed kid? And what level of programming would you lose human? All of these things are already happening. All of these things are happening in the lab. Now the question is, when does it come about and start to enter our lives? And that is the future that we are talking about, because that is what is getting commercialized right now. So I think the world is going to be defined by this platform. I think the world is also going to be defined by cognitive sciences. I mean, I was watching this specially abled people's Olympics on YouTube. And there were these people who had illnesses that had paralyzed them, neck below. And then you see them in that Olympic getting up. You see no exoskeleton. You don't see anything. You don't see any wires coming out. You don't see anything. They just think of something, and somehow the other, whatever they think, gets into the support system that they have, whatever they put around them, and then they get up and they run and they kick the ball. Now, how does this happen? In order for their thought to become an action, one would have needed a wire, a cable that comes out to the brain and gets into the arm and tells the arm to move it forward, but it doesn't happen. So this entire thing about cognition, human intelligence, translating itself into certain kinds of actions, that is the future. And information is the future. You're already seeing bits and bytes already becoming virtual reality. You're already seeing that. Now you put all of these things together, this intelligence that you can tap into, without wires, without cables, without putting anything, with any implants. You put that with bits and bytes becoming virtual reality. And you build all of this up with nanotechnology, with miniaturization. And you have these little implants which are nano, because they come from nanomaterials. And you will be unable to tell what part of you, with this programmed intelligence and programmed bits and bytes and programmed biology, is still human as we know of it. So my question is that with all of those things actually happening in commercialization, should we not do what happened with copper and wireless? Countries that did not have copper, they found it faster to jump over the copper and go straight to wireless. So in order for me to imagine Pakistan 2047, I ask myself, we certainly don't have the copper. We're still talking about primary health care. We're still talking about basic education. We're still talking about things that the world has taken for granted. Are we still today, in 2022, my friends and myself, we are talking about what if women had some rights or equal rights? We're talking about that, this in 2022. We're talking about having decent education for children in 2022, and primary health care, and infant mortality, and child mortality, and all of those things. That's what we're talking about now. That's the cost that we don't have. And the world that I've laid out in front of you is that world that we can jump to. The question is, do we have the willingness, do we have the political will, and do we have the faith and belief that yes, we can? Because if we do, then we have to ask ourselves, what would it take, rather than what can we do? I mean, I think the bunch of things are going to come about, some of which have been mentioned. On top of these trends that I'm talking about, these basic building blocks, or competence blocks, or sciences, or platforms, or whatever you want to call it, I think the world of energy is going to change. And it's not, I think the world of energy is going to be green. I think the world of the future of energy is going to be sustainable, it's going to be green, it's going to be renewable, it's going to be decentralized, it's going to be efficient. And at some point in time we can possibly have zero energy smart cities, or zero energy homes, or zero energy countries. And that's already happening. And it's happening in our neighborhood. In Abu Dhabi, they have a city which they're calling zero energy. So I'm not talking about some rocket science thing that may or may not come about. I think the world is going to get more and more globalized. I think we're going to have virtualization of production systems, of innovation systems. People are going to tap across boundaries into these teams that sit everywhere. You've already seen it in this COVID epidemic, even in Pakistan. Look at how seamlessly, how fast people were to adapt, and how fast people were to kind of begin to use whatever those little, Zooms, and I don't want to advertise anything, but Zoom has become Xerox in our life now. So how fast people zoomed. Did you see that? So I see that happening. I see borderlessness in terms of production systems, virtualization of teams, putting arms together, hands together, and building up things that previously could not be built. I see in technology convergence. I don't think you can build up a retina if you don't have the materials, which is engineering. That material has to speak to biology, so I can't see how it can happen without an understanding of biology. So I not only see miniaturization, but I also see convergence of sciences, convergence of technologies. And I think this information thing, the bits and bytes that I spoke about, I think it's already doing that, but it would create the democratization of information. And that would change the way we educate ourselves. That would change the way our entire conception of school and university is going to change with this democratization of information and the availability of information and what I call the enfranchisement of people, because people living in our part of the world have been completely disenfranchised. And that is because of the copper thing. And with this wireless thing, and I'm using this as a metaphor, that because of the copper limitations we couldn't, and because of this wireless, we can jump. We can jump and get there faster and hopefully successfully. And these things are already happening. All of the elements, you've seen Tesla, and that is now, not in 2047. You've seen smart cities, and that's now, not in 2047. You've seen this big store in San Francisco where you have a virtual wallet, and if you pick up something from the shelf, it basically takes the money off your account. And if you look at it and you don't like it and put it back, it puts the money back. This is already happening, and there is no employee